This is Rosemary Bus reporting for ATM, and this is my Unit 10 observation screencast. The reason it took me so long was because I was having problems understanding the worksheet, but I'm gonna do it with what I did understand and give you my observations. Okay, so for day one, I had the minimum temperatures were -7, and that was on the 28th. And on that was -7 on my left, and was my minimum, and for my right, my minimum was -4, and then for my max for my right was 20, and my max for my left was 19. Um, you know, starting the week off, I could tell that it wasn't going to be very cloudy. There was some cloud coverage, and there was snow, so it wasn't extremely cold, but it was getting to go into the negatives. I think that the clouds may have helped. But the little bit of clouds that there were, I think that they might have helped kind of make it not so cold. And the fact that it was snowing as opposed to not, and we don't just have an accumulation of snow that eventually turns to ice. For the 1029, my left max was 20, and my minimum was 11. My right max was 22, and my right minimum was 11. So you could start kind of telling, even though right here where my numbers were kind of closer together, how it influences the relative humidity and the dew point at the beginning, and you can see my relative humidity drop on the 28, probably because of my really low temperatures as compared to on the 29th, where I didn't have any negatives and I had an 11 Fahrenheit and another 11. For the next day, I had on my max history a 16 and a -10. On my right thermometer, I had 16 and a -10, and it's kind of strange when you start getting the same temperature measurements for both of them. But being downtown and taking a measurement of the snow there just kind of makes it all make a little more sense. It's just a really weird place to take measurements for temperature due to all the different elements that are around that can influence just the temperature. There's a lot more obstruction downtown, and you can kind of tell right here the also big drop for the big drop I had from the -10. The next day, my left max history was 20 Fahrenheit and 19 on my left thermometer, and then I got a left max was 20 and right max was 19. So this was the first day that you kind of start really seeing a really big gap between high temperatures and then at some points of the day, or at least 20 being pretty relatively high compared to the -17 that it starts reaching. Just a big change due to the snow this week. Everybody kind of starts noticing how much it affects everybody again, this time of a year again. And for my fifth day, I had 18 as my max, 8 as my minimum, and 19 as my max for the right, and 3 as the right for my minimum too. This was a very particular week. I feel like out of all the observations, I remember that even though you have some numbers that are pretty close together, when it comes down to reaching the maximum temperatures, you just kind of start experiencing the beginning of the cold, and the negative temperatures just kind of seem to go down and go back up and just reach really really extreme lows. And there could be a day where it's not so cold, but then there's another day where it's really really cold, and you just kind of start seeing the lack of a pattern, but still, you know, it's like the beginning of the weather. So I'm pretty sure that it will, will come to a point where, it'll just be cold all the time. For my final day, I got a 16 Fahrenheit for my max on my left thermometer, and then I got a -1 as the minimum on my left, and for the right I got a 16 Fahrenheit for my max and a 0 for my minimum. So it was a kind of a nicer day. You get the -17 so along the week, and you just start feeling like it's gonna stay this way, and then it goes back to 8, and then on the 5th day and the 6th day it just goes to -1. So you could tell kind of like the relation of the figures, and you can kind of figure out just how irregular and like if there would have to be a line between the relative humidity and the dew point, it would be very shaky, just because it was all kind of like a very unstable week when it came down to the weather. Still really interesting to see just how the temperature can go up and down. And we have some of the weather maps that we had to be looking at, and you can kind of tell that we have some low pressure systems. Then we have some snow showers. Then you start going down, and you just kind of start noticing the difference in from the other map. There's a lot more snow. Like you have the high and low pressure systems over here. You kind of don't see the rain anymore, except for right here we have some fog and some rain. Fog, rain, all that drizzle. On these maps it's a little bit harder to kind of tell how, the 7 day observation was kind of up and down. On this day we also kind of have, like the same snow showers over here. We have some rain and kind of like the same fog and rain precipitation over here. You get to Monday and everything just kind of goes away except for the snow. So, there's no more rain and fog. Just everything has been covered by snow. You can kind of tell it's it's cloudy, or there are clouds, so that is good. Just a small amount, during clear periods of the day. I noticed during the week. Come Tuesday, you can kind of see more about, like the irregularities in the weather. It's a little bit less cloudy. You see some snow, but then we have the rain again, in these areas right here, and some showers, which is, unexpected. The day before it was completely covered in snow, and then the next day you have all this new high and low interaction. And one interesting thing that we show, there's a lot less, obstruction clouds. And for Thursday, you can kind of see this peak right here in the temperature. Relative humidity reached pretty low in combination with the dew point, but that was also one of the coldest days, and kind of has to be a correlation between the clouds and the temperature doing that. For Wednesday, we have more rain again. It's still snowy and foggy. Always the best combination not to be able to see where you're going when you're driving. But now we have a bunch of snow showers over here. So yeah, no rain. Snow showers, and then fog and snow. It just kind of started snowing a lot more particularly harder on Wednesday. We have more snow showers over here, and then we get this interesting new development. Some rain and snow. Then we kind of start seeing a lot more rain during the coastal or in the coastal areas. Usually tends to be a lot rainier than, in Fairbanks, where we kind of just had like we started reaching the first of the negatives around the 17s, and we just had a lot of snow. The less cloud coverage, or the less amount of snowing it does, is kind of like the chillier that it starts noticeably getting. So here's my weather observation for this unit, and I remember that being one of the most interesting weeks for observations. So it's really interesting to kind of go back and see the relationship between the 2 days weather currency and my weather observations. Thank you.